when he had started studying theology, he kind of lost his faith, apparently. When he started realizing there's so many versions of these stories, they're coming from different places. He became sort of like, hey, I think I'm agnostic. I'm just going to step back and have this approach of not knowing, not having a doctrine, not having an ideology that I'm attaching myself to. And so then when he goes through all of this is a straight-laced scientist, by the way. This is not like some guy looking for psychedelics to be a part of everything.
Yes, it's a very serious book.
Right. And there's a lot of those people that are doing that. They're looking for psychedelics to be a part of everything, sort of to validate or justify their own use of these things. He wasn't doing that at all. And he wasn't like Wasson, where a guy who went down and experienced the psychedelic experiences in Mexico and then came back and described them for mainstream literature. This guy was doing it like
a scholar.
And his whole purpose was just to decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls. But it was so compelling to him when it was over, he had to break ranks and he had to write this book. And then they took that book out of circulation, I believe. Find out what happened with the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, how it was, because he published another book shortly afterwards that was the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Christian Myth. And I think it felt to me when I read that one, it's almost like he has to write a book because they took the other one away, because it was kind of like saying most of the same stuff. But he believed that that what they were writing about, a lot of it was fertility rituals and psychedelic experiences, and that they were hiding a lot of these stories, like they were hiding the knowledge underneath these stories to try to, in parables and all these different ways, to try to obscure it from the Romans and obscure it from the people that conquered them, so they wouldn't know they would know the secrets of this thing, this ritual in which they would experience God.
So why is it that psychedelic use has played the role that it's played in your interests and your pursuit of knowledge? What do you think it's done for you that's been valuable?
I think we're in a weird place in society where the term drug is a blanket, and it covers things that have vastly different effects. It covers caffeine, it covers nicotine, and it covers dimethyltryptamine, which is crazy. It's crazy that all those things are drugs. Adderall's a drug. Benzodiazepine is a drug. Xanax, there's a million of them. They're all different, and they're all drugs. And the idea that psychedelics are a drug, for lack of a better term, that's what we use. I don't think that's what they are at all. I think they are probably why we became people. I think they are probably why society advanced. And I think every great ancient culture probably celebrated them and used them. It seems like there's so much evidence out of Egypt of the use of psilocybin, various different drugs, various different psychedelic experiences, the iconography of the pineal gland seems to be a big part of multiple cultures, not just Egyptian, but even Catholicism. If you go to the Vatican, there's this enormous pine cone that is a statue there. And I was very lucky when I went to the Vatican. We got a guide. We hired a private guide that was a scholar from France. And when he's not working in the summers, he gives these tours, and they're very thorough. And he was a brilliant guy. I wish I could remember his name. I should probably find it out to give him credit. Brilliant guy. So he takes us through, showing us all this artwork. It's incredible, explaining why they had little penises, and that it was explaining the whole thing, that big penises were thought to be barbaric, and it was not representative of like somewhat of class and dignity and education. And so we get to this pine cone, and he says to me, he goes, "Do you know what this represents?" And I said, "Is it the pineal gland?" And he goes, "Yes." And then we start this conversation of why these Catholics would have this enormous representation of the pineal gland, which they reference as the seat of the soul, and that this gland, which is in the center of your brain, is thought to be literally a third eye. And on reptiles, it actually has a cornea and a lens, this gland, Like literally, it's exactly where the third eye of Eastern mysticism is. And they've got a representation of it right here. And it's thought to be where dimethyltryptamine is produced. And this whole connection to it is so old that it seems like you go back to the John Marco Allegro stuff, you go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are the oldest version of the Bible, the only version that I believe the only version they have in Aramaic of all those stories. And if he's right, if John Marco Allegro is right, it all kind of makes sense that these people were having these experiences much like the Greeks were with the Eleusinian mysteries, much like multiple different cultures in the Amazon, all over the world have experienced these profound ceremony experiences that lead to these journeys into the spirit world, these connections with higher consciousness, this something that when you're experiencing it seems very, very real, but also very preposterous when you try to explain it to people that aren't experienced. You know, it's like Hendrix.